Just wanted to share something with you guys. I want to share with you guys what my life has been like the past 9 months that I've been at Blessed and really been walking with the Lord. I struggled with drugs and alcohol for a long time in my life. I'm an ex-convict. I've seen a lot of different things in my life, but since coming to Blessed and since really making a rededication to the Lord, I've seen incredible things happen in my life. My heart has been completely changed in ways I never thought possible. Before I got here, I was really kind of a disgruntled person, to say the least. I was kind of grouchy, and I was really afraid of people. I was really afraid to let anybody in and get close to anyone. The first night I came to Blessed, people surrounded me with love. I knew a few people that were already there, Evan and Lauren and Heather and Justin, but all the people that were strangers to me came up to me and just embraced me with love, and I can't begin to tell you how beautiful it was to see that and how Jesus works through other people. Just wanted to touch a little deeper on what God has really been doing in my life. From like a really early age, I was exposed to a lot of dark things. My dad was an alcoholic. My mom was a drug addict. My dad was physically and verbally abusive, and my mom was just really emotionally unstable and unavailable. So from a really early age, I had no foundation. I didn't know who or what God was. My mom attended a Christian church. My dad attended a Catholic church. So my perception, my view of God at a really early age was really twisted. Seen from a Catholic standpoint, the kind of punishing, hellfire and brimstone kind of God, as opposed to my mom going to a Christian church and being a Christian God, who's based on love. So by the time I was 12, 13 years old, I had gotten kicked out of school. I got sent to a special school for kids that, had behavior problems. By the time I was 15, I finally got out of that school. But the social setting that I was entered into was really huge. I came from a school that was so small, from like 100 to 200 kids, to a normal high school setting that's got over 1,000, and I was shell-shocked. I had no social skills. And as a result, I ran to the first thing I could find, because for me personally, I wanted acceptance. Acceptance that I didn't get from my mom, acceptance that I didn't get from my dad, acceptance I didn't get from anyone really. So I gravitated towards a group of people that were doing drugs, that were drinking, and I fit right into it because I didn't have to try to do anything. I just did what they did, and they accepted me for it. But that didn't last very long either. Before only a short amount of time, within a couple months, I was heavily addicted. I was smoking pot, I was taking pills, I was drinking. I was doing anything I can to anesthetize the way that I felt inside. The way that I felt inside was terrible. I hated myself. I hated everything about life. So I was going to do whatever I could to do to not feel, to turn everything off, from the neck up. And that went on for a few years. By the time I was 18, I'd gotten in trouble quite a few times, and once I became an adult, that trouble really caught up with me. And I started going to jail, back and forth. My mother, had gotten sober. I didn't. I had tried to get off drugs a few times, but I just wasn't ready. When I was 19, after having done a few trips to county jail, I went to prison, and that's when things began to change. At that point in my life, I'd been homeless, I'd been strung out, I'd been to jail, I'd been in fights, I'd seen a lot of things in this world that most people don't get to see. So I guess you could say I was pretty broken. And when you spend enough time in a cell, you don't have many other options than to try to reach out to something bigger than you. And so I chose to reach out to God. I said, Lord, just help me. Do something for me. I've got nothing left. I'm in a cell. I'm in chains. What do I do? And so I started to read the Bible. And God began to speak to me. There was one particular experience where we were in the dorms, and at nighttime you're not supposed to be off your bunk. If you get off your bunk, you get arrested, you get put in cuffs, and you get taken to isolation. I was standing up. I had to go to the bathroom. The sheriffs came in, took everybody, put us on the tables, put us in cuffs, and I had a razor under my mattress at the time to use to sharpen my pencil. Now, if you get caught with any kind of weapon in jail, that's an immediate 5-year increase to your sentence. So I began to pray, and I asked God, please, help me. do something for me. I don't want to spend any longer. I was already facing a 6-year sentence. I didn't want to go any farther in. The sheriffs ransacked everybody's mattresses, everybody's beds but mine. You know, and that was the first time I really experienced, you know, one of God's miracles. So it's stuff like that that I would see throughout my time in jail that I completely ignored when I got home. I managed to stay clean the entire time I was locked up. I was locked up for about 4 months. When I got home, I was on house arrest. Within a month of being home and being on house arrest, I decided again that I knew what was best, that I didn't need God, and I started doing drugs again. In September of 2010, I got off of house arrest, and I was using heavily. I had to attend an outpatient program for court, and it wasn't working very well for me because I wasn't willing to let it work. You know, I was defiant. I turned in dirty drug tests. I wouldn't take anything seriously, and my poor attitude, my bad attitude, got me thrown out of there. And my probation officer called my home, called me, and told me, you know, hey, like, you've got one chance at this, dude. You either get your act together, or you're gonna be doing a lot more time. And I got scared, and that fear, you know, initially is what helped me get sober. I got sober on September 28th, 2010, and you know, so I attended AA, and it was the first experience I had with a community. You know, AA's view of, you know, God is, you know, they're more based on like a higher power kind of setting, which now I don't agree with, but at the time that was all that I had. So I latched onto it, and it was good. It was good because it was something at first. After about 6 months of sobriety, I got into a relationship with someone who was a Christian, and she you know, she started bringing me to church. And God played me. He played me like a fiddle. He knew exactly what he was doing because he knows my heart. He knew that I was seeking love. He knew that I was seeking acceptance. And so I started to attend church with her and her family, and I began to experience God on the first hand. And it was scary. I would go into service and I would just feel really uncomfortable. I would cry and have no idea what was wrong with me. And, you know, she kept telling me, you know, that's God trying to get your attention. I was like, no, this doesn't make any sense. It's got to be crazy. I mean, why would he do that for me? I mean, look at me. I'm an ex-con. I'm a drug addict. Like, why does God want me? You know, why would I be worthy? I was at service one Sunday morning, and you know, my girl and I had gotten into a pretty big argument, and she told me flat out, you know, I don't trust you. I don't want to be around you. And that dropped me, because without Christ, I'm not a very good guy. I'm not. I'm mean. I'm arrogant. I'm big-headed. I'm violent. You know, I'm, what's the word I'd like to use here? I'm a weapon of the enemy. And it's a really scary place to be. So after service, you know, we get into this argument, and I go back to church, and I pull Evan aside. Evan was attending the church that I was at the time. And I told him, like, hey, dude, look, one of three things is going to happen here. Like, I'm going to drink, I'm going to hurt myself, or I'm going to hurt somebody else. And I don't want to do any one of those things. So you got to help me out here. Now, Evan and I had talked a few times here and there prior to, and he came flat out. He's like, you know what I'm going to tell you? I said, yeah, the God thing. I get it. I understand. Like, just tell me what I got to do, man. I got nothing left. I'm empty. You know, so Evan walked me through the salvation prayer, if that's what you want to call it. And life began to change. Life began to change in a way that I never thought possible. I had finally found a strength, you know, Jesus being the rock that he is, that I could finally lean on and not be afraid of. I had finally found a love and a peace that I never thought possible. And it was the most incredible feeling. You know, and for the next, 6 months, life was beautiful. You know, I got to be part of Evan and Lauren's wedding. I got asked to be a groomsman, which was one of the highest honors I've ever experienced. You know, I got to see things in my family change, things in my life. Things were really good. You know, but lo and behold, you know, after a matter of time, you know, my old way of thinking began to creep back in, because I began to just I got comfortable. I got comfortable in my walk. What I was doing was enough for me. And that's a scary place to be too. And I began to slip on some things. And before I knew it, I had given the enemy, openings to get back in. And as a result, I lost that relationship. I had lost the job. I had lost, things began to fall apart around me. And things got dark. Probably around September of last year, things had gotten the worst they could get. My grandmother had passed away, right after my girlfriend had left me. I had felt like God had left me. I had felt like everything was coming to an end. He's not helping me. He's not doing anything for me. I'm done. And I got really low. I had gone through a relapse earlier that year in May. So after about 3.5 years, I had relapsed. 3.5 years of sobriety, I relapsed. And that's when things got shaky. And then October is when things had finally hit that big wall. So I reached out, to Evan and to Nick and said, hey guys, I know it's been a while, but I need some help. I don't have anyone in my life anymore that I can go to for any. My relationship with the Lord has really been faltering. I need some help. And those guys, being the guys that they are, they came right to my aid. And that's what I love so much about. That's what I love so much about Jesus. He puts people in your life that emulate what he did. They come to bat for you. You won't find that in the world. I've tried. Trust me. I tried. I looked for it in AA. I looked for it in the streets. I looked for it in prison. I looked for it everywhere. But when you meet people that are really walking with the Lord, you can't beat a relationship like that. And so I reached out to them, spoke to them, and they invited me to come to service, and okay, well, I'll think about it maybe, because at that point I still was just really struggling. And the night before I came to Blessed for the first time, things had gotten really low for me. I remember being at home and being in my shower and sitting there and pretty much begging God to kill me. I was done. I was done wanting to live. I was done wanting to do anything. And when I got out of the shower, my phone rang and it was Evan. He's like, hey bro, I just want to, I want to invite you to the service tonight. It's going to be, having a special speaker. It was Charles Coletti. Don't want to pressure you, just want to put it out there. And something in me said, go. So I did. Tyler and Danielle came and picked me up, and man, I'm telling you, I was a sight to be seen. I had a black hood over my head. I had all black clothing on. I looked like the Grim Reaper, because that's what I felt that I needed to look like for some reason. That's what the enemy had told me was okay, or told me what I was. So I got to church that night, and Nick and everybody greeted me. They were just excited to see me. That shocked me. Like, why? Why are you look at me? Why would you be happy to see me? I look like a corpse, but immediately, I was surrounded by love, and it scared me. And so I stepped outside, and Nick came with me and talked with me, and I kind of let it all out on him. I was angry and hurt with God. I had blamed him for everything that had happened in my life. Nick, just sat there and listened, which was incredible, and he asked me before we walked back into service, he goes, can I ask you something? So I said, are you open to anything that could happen tonight? I said, I don't have much of a choice. So we got back into service, and I sat down, and I just looked up, and I said, Lord, if you're here, you got to do something, because I got nothing left. And once again, he showed up. At the end of the service, Pastor Coletti was doing an altar call, and he'd gotten a word about someone that had been hurt by other people and so on and so forth, and I knew it was about me. And I started to shake and tremble, and I almost couldn't get up. I looked over at Nick, I can't move my legs, I can't move. He's like, you have to get up and go. You have to get up and go. I said, will you go with me? He said, yeah, I'm right here, I'll be right behind you. And so we got up, I walked up, and Pastor began to speak over me, and I began to shake. And I began to well up with tears. And the woman that came up, she began to sing and pray in tongues over me. And It was the most beautiful thing. The Lord began to speak through her, and I've never left you. I love you, and if you were the only one on this earth, I would have come just for you. And that's exactly what I needed to hear. And the Lord knew that, because that's what I had felt alone. I had felt lost. I felt dead. And Jesus came in and restored me. Without him, I'm a monster. I'm evil. I'm mean. I'm cold. I'm ruthless. With him, I love people. I love ministry. I love worshiping him. I love being able to love. That's something I couldn't do for a long, long time. And truth be told, I really didn't know what love was before him. I thought that I did, because I thought the world's conception of love was what was normal. Christ's love is a love that can't be replicated, can't be made, can't be fixed anywhere. It's found in his word, and it's the most beautiful thing I've ever experienced. You guys are my home, you guys are my family, and I've gotten to experience Jesus through a lot of you firsthand. So I guess just to wrap things up, I just want to say that, I've seen every dark corner of this world. I've seen a lot of bad things. Things you would think couldn't be overcome. But then I saw Jesus. And his light broke through every bit of that. And he's going to continue to do it. He does it through me every day. I'm still stubborn. I still fall short. I'm not perfect in any way, shape, or form. And that's okay. I don't have to be. All I have to do is just seek his heart and chase after him, and nothing, absolutely nothing in this world can overtake me or you. So I love you guys. Thank you for listening. Have a good day.